try to locate any metallic artifact that could help me in the identification or guessing which ship could have been. The first plate of mint porcelain found in that wreck. We found thousands of them, but thousands of them.
So what are you expecting to find? The Jesus Christ statue from Merida? What are you trying to find?
Hello everyone and welcome to Underwater Adventures with Alex Mirabal. Today we will be talking about interesting finds in shipwrecks made with metal detector. The last one, it will surprise you, so let's dive into it. We have talked in previous episodes about the use of the metal detectors, the working principles of the metal detectors, that everyone loves metal detectors. A metal detector is a very useful tool when working in maritime archaeology and working in shipwrecks, because it's a tool that allows you to locate and to find artifacts which are made of metal that are not visible. But today we will discuss, I will tell you some examples of things that has happened to me when these finds, because of using properly a metal detector, will contribute with knowledge about the shipwreck you're working or history in general. So it will be prominent finds because of the information that they bring with them, thanks to the metal detector and an operator that knows how to work with the metal detector in the right way. So our first example is how a proper operation of a metal detector can make a difference when the diver who's working with the metal detector knows how to take the maximum out of the capabilities of the metal detector. It is because we are talking about the San Jose. We were working in the San Jose in Mozambique. The San Jose from 1622, it was a wreck that brought a large amount of silver coins. It was very common to find silver coins during the dives. Sometimes it was not even necessary, the metal detector, because there was such a big amount that you could fan the sediment away and you will find under the sand, you will find a second layer with just silver coins. So you didn't need the metal detector to find those silver coins. But in that excavation project, we were obviously using our metal detectors because there were some other objects and there were other artifacts which were either deeper into the sediment or they were a little bit away from the area of the coins. So the silver coins can give you so much information. There is other information that you can find in other artifacts. So we were working and trying to find everything we could find on the shipwreck to put together the data of the history of that ship. And having this old metal detectors, we have the Ep.60 2000, which is this yellow one that you see in every episode. And we have made jokes about it. It's even in the Q&As and everywhere because everyone is asking about that metal
and
detector.
Even this weekend, I released a short where you're using a metal detector. And the first comment was like, what is the brand? What's the name of that metal detector? So clearly it's something that people are very much interested in.
Exactly. And on top of it, in that short, it is another metal detector. So it's not the yellow
classic
one
yellow.
I know.
Now that you said it, it's why I got reminded of it. I'm like, and it's not even the one that you're gonna mention now. So I cannot even link it as an example.
That's why I was asked, because it was like, hey, this is not your normal metal detector. So what's the brand? So we were using this metal detector, and I mentioned it because this metal detector has the capability of, you can reset the threshold, the zero, in which you will start detecting over that threshold. that baseline. You can set that during the dive. You can set that at any moment during the dive. You don't need to go out of the water to reset the metal detector to that level of, let's say, metal contamination on the seabed. We do it a lot because sometimes you're working in a wreck that has plenty of these little copper pins that they were used to
Seal.
hammer the planks together and stuff. But copper pins, there are millions of them. So if you pass the metal detector in that area, you will be stopped every second because of these little pins.
That was gonna be my question or my note when you said that there was an entire layer under the sediment full of silver coins. I was gonna say that must have been annoying to work on. Probably a very exciting wreck to work on because you know that there's so much in it, but at the same time, so annoying to be underwater with that thing beeping every second, every literal second.
Well, that's why I like that metal detector so much, because it has this capability of making that level of metal invisible to the metal detector. It will only detect something over that. And in trying this feature of the metal detector, I went really extreme and I said, okay, let me see, because we were finding a lot of coins under, there is a place where there are a couple of cannons and 2 anchors as well, iron cannons and iron anchors, and they are in a small area, and we were finding a lot of coins underneath the anchors and the cannons. And I said, let me try to see if I can find a coin which is attached to the cannon or to the anchor. So I put the metal detector on the anchor and obviously start beeping and ringing all the time because it's a huge mass of iron. And then I used that as a 0. So I made everything smaller than an anchor. I made it invisible to the metal detector. But if you start, as I did, moving it slowly over the anchor, then you would hear a very short beep. Beep here, you go back, you hear the beep again in the same place, and you go out. Obviously, the metal detector loses a lot of sensitivity in that position. If it cannot see an anchor, imagine that it will practically not see anything.
I was gonna say that would seem counterintuitive for everybody else listening, because it's like, okay, you're setting up the threshold to the biggest, or probably one of the biggest objects made out of metal that you will find in a shipwreck. So what are you expecting to find? The Jesus Christ statue from Merida? What are you trying to find?
Of the Merida treasure. Yeah, well, the experiment was to see if even in that situation it could pick something that would be attached to the anchor but completely covered by the oxidization and the concretion, so you will not see it. And it happened. So we found few coins, silver coins, that only changed the mass of the anchor in very few grams, but the metal detector was able to pick them up. So this is not like really an archaeological groundbreaking find, but it taught us how to exploit,
I was just about to say,
that model of metal detector to the maximum, that you could really be efficient in shipwrecks which have a very large amount of these copper pins or copper sheathing. You know, that it has all these, what people call musket balls or bird shot, which are these lead shot. Sometimes they are very tiny and they are all over the place, and you cannot pass the metal detector because you will get crazy if you don't have this discrimination feature in the metal detector. So I wanted to mention this one first because it's curious. It's super curious. I was super surprised that we could find coins attached to something metallic like an anchor or a cannon with the metal detector, which, by the way, this is not related to metal detectors, but for you to know. Silver coins, which are within the concretion or the oxidization of a cannon or an anchor or a cannonball or a larger iron object, they are in much better condition than the other silver coins because they are stuck to another metal which would work like a cathode. It will degrade, it will oxidize faster than the coin, so the damage in the coin by the oxidization will be much less than when the coin is standing alone just with salt water. So coins found in concretions with iron objects, silver coins, they will be in much better condition, will give you much more information than a normal coin that will be just standing alone in the ground. So this is one of the reasons why also we wanted to find coins attached to a cannon or to an anchor. This was like a curiosity. It's a curiosity. It speaks more about the metal detector than archaeology itself. But I will tell you the second example. We found a very interesting shipwreck in Mozambique as well, in a place that is called the Silva Shoal, or Baixo de Silva, which had 16 iron cannons. It has like 5 or 6 anchors. It was a very interesting wreck at the first view, but since we inspected the wreck, I was under the suspicion that that wreck was found and worked before we found it, which is sad and it's disappointing, because after you spend so many months in the sea looking for shipwrecks and you find one, at least you would like the wreck to be virgin, so you can find whatever she was bringing and the story of the wreck just by yourself, and not something that has been already worked. But I was suspecting, because of the position in which some artifacts were, like cannons and stuff, it didn't seem natural. Anchors and rolls, there were long rolls of lead sheathing that it was used to cover the hull, as I have explained. There were rolls of that. So there were some indications that the wreck had been touched, had been worked.
So there are ways, and this is an obvious question perhaps, but it's interesting to me. There are ways that you, with your experience, can, like, generally or relatively easy say, oh, this wasn't natural. Somebody touched some things here and moved some things here, even if they didn't leave behind any evidence of modern interaction.
Yes,
wow.
yes, you can. I mean, with experience, you can see, for instance, if an iron cannon is sitting on the seabed, because of the color of the concretion around the cannon, you could see which concretion belonged to the top and which concretion belonged to the downside of the cannon. If you see that turn around,
then it's clear.
You can identify that. Also, when you move some sediment around, sediment takes a long time to deposit on top of the wreck remains. And if a wreck hasn't been touched in 300 years, the sediment has sent a color. If you touch it now and you remove sediment and this sediment comes back, then this process starts again. And when you arrive, this sediment will have a different color.
Interesting.
It's not the color you expect from a sediment that hasn't been touched. So yeah, because of all this bacteria and all this life in between. So yeah, it was kind of, I was suspecting. And we explored the site and we went around and we tried to find every indication to try to discover which ship it was, or at least the nationality or the proximate year. And thanks to the metal detector, because you could swim around and you could see nothing more than the cannons, cannonballs, the anchors, these rolls of lead sheathing. And I started passing the metal detector all around, and I started finding in every depression of the seabed that was already covered by sand or algae, and it has already sea growth on it. In every depression of the seabed, I started finding large clumps of copper coins. Of copper coins that were otherwise, without the metal detectors, you wouldn't have seen that. You can swim around, you will not see even one, because also copper gets green.
Can be confused with the algae.
And algae on the seabed is green. It is very difficult to spot unless it's ringing in the metal detector and you say, yeah, well, okay, this is a metallic
and the green of the oxidized bronze is a color that you expect on the seabed, so it wouldn't jump at you.
Yeah, so thanks to the metal detector, we were able to find these pockets in the seabed with copper coins, concretions. We realized that they were from the Netherlands. They were VOC coins from 1752, most of them. And I had the information that the Bredenhof, which sunk in 1753, it was around that area. I knew of a colleague of mine and a friend of mine that he has found the Bredenhof, he has excavated the Bredenhof, he has even recovered a lot of silver ingots that she was bringing. So the wreck was excavated, but in his reports, it was not clear in which place it was found. So I couldn't take that place and said, okay, I don't have to look here because the Bredenhof is there and it's being already excavated. So I kind of connected the Bredenhof thanks to these coins that were found only thanks to the metal detector, because otherwise you would swim for a week or for 2 weeks over that shipwreck, you would never see one copper coin. And thanks to the metal detector, we found thousands of them, but thousands of them, and all of them were in the time range that Bredenhof would have brought. Obviously, having that information, then I call my friend and I asked him, and he said, yeah, obviously, that's the Bredenhof. I found it already. I worked it already. But this is an example how the metal detector can provide you with historical information, even if people normally connect it to values or valuables. You know, the people immediately connect the metal detector to finding gold and silver and, you know, an ingot. And it can provide you with artifacts that can give you very important historical information or archaeological information in the case that you are excavating a shipwreck. So I wanted to bring you the example of the copper coins clumps of the Bredenhof thanks to the metal detector. And now I need to mention, because there is also a misconception in many of the metal detector people that gold somehow, because it's more valuable or more dense, but the gold somehow makes the metal detector react differently than other metals. In my episode about metal detection, I talk about that. I explain why this is not the case. But now the example I want to give you is from the Inés de Soto wreck in Cuba. We were working with these yellow metal detectors we love so much, and we were scanning a part of the seabed that was very flat, but at first view you could only see like the natural seabed, quite flat, a little small corals and small algae. So all very boring seabed, but very natural. There was no indication that it could hide anything man-made, for instance. And there we got a very weak signal on the metal detector, but one thing is that the signal is weak, and another thing is that if you can relocate that signal various times. If you can relocate the signal, it is not a glitch, it is not a mistake of the metal detector, it's not an error, there is something there. It may be very small or very deep. It could be big, but it could be deep.
How can you be so confident that an isolated beep that doesn't repeat itself is more probable to be something than to be nothing?
Well, it has to repeat itself.
Ah, okay.
You pass it in one place and you hear a very weak or a very faint beep. If you are able to relocate that beep, so far the only thing you have is
misunderstood.
The beep.
I thought that you said it the other way around, that even if you couldn't pick it back up, there must be something, but no, I misunderstood. It repeats itself, obviously. Yeah, that makes more sense.
No, yeah. That even if it's very small signal, very
faint,
weak, even if it's weak, if you are able to relocate it, it's something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is something. It's produced by something, because errors in the equipment, they are random. They will not repeat all the time in the same point.
Of course, and that makes total sense. I clearly misunderstood. That's why I was a little bit like, huh? Yeah, I misunderstood. You didn't say it wrong.
Well, I'm putting this example because this very faint signal, this very weak signal in seabed, otherwise totally normal, like natural seabed, it made us, because of that, the metal detector picked up that signal every time in that small place, to excavate the place and find, first, I think it were 6 gold discs like this. I'm talking about a 2 kilo gold disc each, beautiful ones, with the marks
The little faint sign.
because they were very deep, and well, very deep. They were about 30 centimeters from the surface, which is not that deep, but
not at all.
But man, the position of the discs and
the position, the whatever,
whatever. So it made us excavate. Obviously, when you start excavating in that place and you start removing rocks and concretion and everything, and you start going down, then the metal detector starts ringing stronger. You are sure that yes, you are reaching, or you are in the way to reach the source of that magnetic anomaly, of that hit. So we were working there. I think I have some pictures of these gold discs. There is a cut in the seabed, and you can see them more or less as the distance they were from the surface of the seabed, which was not that much, and they were massive, solid gold discs this size. And they had marks of provenance of the mines where they were made, so we knew they were coming from Mexico. There was a lot of information in those gold discs, plus that nearby this gold disc, then we got a stronger hit, and the stronger hit that when we clean it up, it was a very eroded and in bad condition astrolabe, which is made of copper. So there we go. Everything went upside down in that wreck regarding metal detection, or the idea.
Great artifacts.
Yeah, great artifacts. I mean, everything you found in that wreck with the metal detector was important. But you see the difference. A faint or a weak signal led you to big gold discs, very massive amount of metal, and a stronger signal led you to a very eroded astrolabe made of copper. Why am I mentioning this? Well, both artifacts, the gold disc and the astrolabe, both, they provide us with very important information about the shipwreck, but also for the people who love and do metal detection as a hobby, and they do it in their weekends and stuff. Don't trust 100% the idea that the more dense metal will give you a stronger signal. There are many factors that will affect that result, that will impact that result. So it's not only the density of the metal. So don't believe that every time that your metal detector will give you a very strong signal, you are in the presence of gold. No, it doesn't, at least not in my experience, it doesn't work like that. That's an example of metal detection in the same wreck, really nearby one type of artifact to the other, in which the behavior of the metal detector is totally different, and you find two very important artifacts that without a metal detector would be obviously impossible to find. Another example, it was in the Varandinha wreck in Cape Verde, and this one I'm bringing it just because of the artifact, not that much of the metal detector, because the metal detector was working normally and there were plenty
was doing its job,
but there was plenty of metallic artifacts that we could find, but because of the artifact itself, because there were scissors of a type that I have never seen before. Actually, I think I should research it. I mean, but I have so many artifacts that I want to research. I should research it. Maybe you guys can help me in the comment section, because I'm sure that some of you have seen scissors of that type. They were made of copper, and very weird because it has a sort of a little box in one of the blades. You have like a sort of a little box, and the other one has a latch that will go into that, like it would be to, you know, to put down a candle light or something that will go
to cut candle wicks.
It could be, but
or seal,
like to seal something, but underneath it has like legs, you know, one in each ear where you put your fingers, one in each and one in the front. So it was meant to work
static,
horizontal
on top of something.
Horizontal. Man, I don't know what it is. I need to but it was
me trying to find out as if I would know.
It was a very curious artifact. It was a very interesting find, and that's what I'm bringing up, and with the hope that some of you would tell me, Alex, that's very simple. These are scissors for this. Okay, please let me know and take me out of my misery, because I have found that many years ago. I haven't had the time to research it properly, and it's an artifact I love.
No, and we're using the metal detector as an excuse to get you guys' help, so please help us.
You have the photo not already in the video, you will see, most probably you will know and will let me know. And the last one, I told you in the beginning of the video, the last one will surprise you because thanks to the metal detector, I found the first porcelain artifact in the Espadarte in Mozambique. Espadarte from 1558.
Okay, how?
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the sea and maritime archaeology. Yeah, of course, if I say that I found the first Chinese porcelain artifact with the metal detector, everyone would say, "How come?
Yeah.
How come?" Don't think that the composition of the paste of the porcelain.
That's what I was gonna say.
No, it had any content of anything that can.
Lead or something. I literally was gonna say that.
And I know most of the people will think about it, but there was a very interesting thing that happened in that wreck or nearby that wreck. The Spadarte sunk in the front of the fortress, in the entry of the channel of the island of Mozambique, the navigation channel in 1558. So that is a very early wreck, as we know. At that time, those ships were not carrying chains with them. They were carrying ropes, not chain in any way. They were using ropes instead of chains. But with the centuries that passed, this was the entry of the harbor, and the government of Mozambique, they put navigation buoys to mark the entry of the channel, as they are in plenty of harbors. You could see this one red buoy and one green buoy that will mark the entry channel, so the ships can orientate and go
They can limit.
and go between these two buoys. It's a very common navigation sign. And with the years, those buoys sunk there in Mozambique. Most probably a big ship got tangled with one of the buoys and drag it, because those buoys are fixed to the seabed and attach a long chain attached to the buoy. So that buoy went down and the chain went through the ballast pile of the Spadarte by chance, and it was covered by ballast afterwards. So when we found the wreck, we didn't see any chain, obviously, and we were not expecting to find any chain because it was a very early wreck. But then me with the metal detector going around in the ballast pile to try to locate any metallic artifact that could help me in the identification of guessing which ship could have been, I came across a very strong signal under the ballast, because I had already set because the ballast stones, they can be detected by the metal detector. They are very dense, they are highly mineralized, so you can get signal from the ballast stones. So I had already put the zero over the ballast stones, so it will not pick the ballast stones, but still gave me a very strong sign. And I started removing some stones to see what that strong sign. I was thinking a cannon or something that was covered by ballast, and I found the chain. I found a chain going across the wreck, and I said, this is not from the time, this is anachronic here, it shouldn't be. But attached to the chain there was the first plate of Ming porcelain found in that wreck, because the chain apparently fell on top of the plate in that moment, and then with the oxidization, you start engulfing the plate,
got concreted into
the chain, and it was very difficult.
Crazy.
It was very difficult to take out, because you have
without breaking
to
it.
bring
I'm
a piece of the chain with it, because otherwise porcelain would break. But I mean, that was the first artifact, the one that make us think, oh, because of the artistry in the porcelain, we identified that was Ming, and then that was Jiangxing, that it was a potentially interesting shipwreck because of the type of porcelain and the age of the ship. And that was all thanks to the metal detector that picked up a chain that was probably there from the 1970 or 1980, that has nothing to do with the wreck, that has no relation to the wreck whatsoever, but had the good or bad luck of falling on top of a porcelain plate. There was no porcelain object visible in the wreck. There was no porcelain object. You could swim over the shipwreck, you will not see anything of porcelain. But that was trapped with the chain, and thanks to the metal detector, I was able to find it.
Your job must give fuel to anyone that wants to believe in
Karma.
destiny or fate or any of those things, because come on, even for me, I'm like, what are the chances that the one thing that the chain drags is something relevant?
Yeah.
Because it could have dragged literally anything
Everywhere.
else. And the one thing that it dragged was something that not only was it relevant, it was also found by somebody that could understand that. It's just, yeah, it's too good to be true, almost.
It's
Yeah.
like that word that you were telling me earlier.
Serendipity.
Because we are
Yeah.
the kings of serendipity.
Yeah, no, totally. Your job is fully serendipitous. I don't understand how half of the things that you tell happen, and I know they're true simply because we have reports and pictures. Otherwise, I would be like,
Yeah, because I mean, that all comes with having the right team in the right place, people with the right training. So
Correct.
they are able to identify stuff that other people will miss. And yeah, it is a combination. Obviously, we laugh about this because there are things that really look too good to be true. But it's a
Yeah.
combination, as you said, I mean, someone that could identify that this was important, because we were not there.
Correct.
We were not there by chance. We were there because we were looking for historic shipwrecks. We were doing a survey on a shipwreck. So this is the kind of thing that we were expected to find. Not the chain, but I was prepared to find Ming porcelain because it will mean something. I wanted to bring you this last one as a surprise because, of course, we are talking about metal detection and I come up with the porcelain object. But you see how the seabed dynamics, they are very much alive. The wrecks are not totally quiet and stable along 400 years. They are disturbed by hurricanes, they are disturbed by human influence, fisheries, or navigation in general. So sometimes this poses challenge for the researcher to try to put apart which belongs to this context and these years and which came afterwards. And this porcelain could have been from another site, but ended up there with the chain on top. Okay, later excavation and investigation of the wreck proved that it was a beautiful cargo of Ming porcelain. Everyone knows about the spadarte because I talk a lot about the spadarte in other episodes. So, but what I didn't mention is that the first piece, the artifact that makes us stop and look at it and think, okay, this could be interesting, was found because of the metal detector, and it's porcelain. So guys, if you have similar experiences or you have something that you have found with your metal detector that actually make you think twice, and I know everyone loves their metal detector. I love the metal detectors I have been using. Please leave it in the comment section. Let me know. Ask me the questions you believe that it could help in the understanding of this metal detection story. Leave the video a like, share it with your friends, and let's keep on diving.